A few moments later.
This is Hydroid.
Was the lie, you perverts. How the hell are ya? Hydroid, the only warframe dedicated to making your wee bass wet dreams come true. A warframe that a lot of players seem to hate for any number of reasons. Yes, Mr. Aquaman most certainly could use some tweaks to introduce better synergies across all of his abilities. No argument there. However, despite his shortcomings, Hydroid can easily be a tank and crowd controller and by extension, a team supporter. For new players, Tentacle Boy here is fairly simple to modify and play. The only hurdle for you might be the boss fight against Vahak on Earth, since that boss fight can be a bit annoying. All in all, this Davy Jones looking ass is worth it though. So let's begin with his irrelevant passive. Upon ground slamming with any melee, you have a small chance to spawn one single tentacle that will attack enemies nearby. I will tell you right now, there is not a single case in the entire game where this ability is worth more than a $2 lawnmower. So best not even bother acknowledging its existence. First ability. Golden Shower. Tent time man makes it rain like a rapper at a strip club. Now I could bore you with all the mechanics about this ability, but I will spare you since the info is inconsequential, to be quite honest. All you need to know here is that you do not need to charge this ability when you use it. The only thing you gain from doing so is a higher energy drain, more damage and the longer duration of the PP shower. Tapping this ability is enough, since the best feature here is the quick and cheap crowd control. Assuming you are some kind of a weirdo, which, let's be honest, you very likely are because you are watching this video, and you wish to use this ability for damage, then you should note that it deals impact damage, which will have the most potential against corpus units. Fully charging this ability will triple damage the droplets can deal. One more actually very useful utility of this raindrops drop top ability is that you can cast it directly on those asshole nullifiers and destroy their bubbles. Big brain move right there. Next up.
Don't do that!
Water Boy transforms into a wave that makes anything caught in its path super moist.
Hello? That's not funny!
Anyway, this ability will drag any enemies you catch with it along with you and violently ragdoll them into the direction of travel. While moving, enemies are dealt impact damage and then slash upon collision with something or when the surge has reached its max travel distance. In most cases, this ability is useless, especially if you think you will deal damage with it. However, you can use it for quick crowd control of lines up targets, or to gather them up into a tighter group which you can then slay with melee on the ground. If not that, then at least you can use it to make a quick escape. Especially since you will take no damage at all while in waveform. If you want to add more reasons to using this, I would recommend installing the augment, title impunity. This will clear any and all status types from you and allies if they come in contact with the wave. Furthermore, you will remain immune to status types for 12 seconds after cast, which is pretty nice when dealing with high-level slash and toxin damages. There you go. You can now be a surfer dude. Next up.
Let's grab a case of piss wasser and drink for the USA!
Hydroid turns into an infinity urinal. When doing so, you no longer take any damage but therefore lose energy over time. Furthermore, enemies who get caught into the puddle of doom will slowly drown to death. Yeah, no, that's totally not savage or anything. The damage to enemies inside your puddle is 2% of their max health, and this rate will stack per second. You will also deal more damage the more enemies are drowning inside your puddle. Now, I would love to tell you that this ability is amazing and that it deals viable damage. And to be honest, even without extra trickery, you can drown any level enemy in under 1 minute. The problem is that is still too goddamn long. Still, there are nice synergies you might want to take advantage of. For example, your piss puddle will absorb and distribute all incoming outside damage to goons that are drowning. Which means your allies can shoot or cast into your puddle and open a can of wood pass on the little fish stuck inside. Even your own first ability will deal damage as well. While in doggy PP mode, you can also snatch enemies from a distance using a tentacle. This will cost 5 energy per grab, which is still cheaper than moving while in the puddle, because that shit will punish your ass severely. If you want, you could quickly cast and uncast undertow by jumping or dodging. Enemies affected by it are held in a down state until they are released, which means you can abuse the puddle to keep them perpetually knocked down and then perform ground finishers on them. While you are hiding in your filthy spring breaker form, you can cast all of your abilities as well. The first one, as I said, will deal damage to drowning enemies. The second Surfer Boy Wave ability will drag drowning enemies along. Your fourth Hentai as Fuck ability will deal 200% more damage over a regular cast. Ultimately, the best use you can gain from this is a lockdown for defense situations, or a safe place to regain shields. Especially if you install some sort of faster shield recharge modification. Sure, you can use this to kill large groups of enemies too. But only if you have the time. So for example, if you cast this ability in April, you can expect the enemies to be dead somewhere around Christmas. Moving on to the part that is the reason most of you are even watching this video. The ultimate wet dream. Now I would love to tell you that there is something noteworthy about his ability, or make you feel super uncomfortable about your browser history. But, frankly, there is nothing to see here. Press the ability key to instantly cast 10 tentacles that will grab enemies and basically violate them inappropriately. Hold the ability to charge it up, which will increase the radius of the cast by triple at max charge. The number of tentacles will also increase accordingly. In terms of damage, the only thing mention-worthy is that for some fucking reason, these water-based tendrils deal magnetic damage. Which means that they will mess up corpus units pretty good but be garbage against other enemies. Which is not necessarily a deal breaker, because you will be using this mainly for crowd control and extra loot drops thanks to the augment pilfering swarm. On that note, there is a common misconception of this augment. Enemies do not need to be killed by the tentacles in order to trigger extra loot drops. They only need to have been in touch with it. After that, you can dispose of them however you desire. I would highly recommend you bring some sort of AoE weapon with you when using Hydroid, since enemies who are being molested by the tentacles are flung around in a rage-inducing way, and shooting them individually can be a real pain in the ass. Furthermore, you can cast this ability while in puddle mode. This will focus all the tentacles in the area of your puddle and grant them more damage, as mentioned earlier. So a possible damage combo here would be to catch some fools in your puddle, then cast 4 to summon higher damage tentacle, then release the enemies from the puddle and cast purple rain on them. And yes, you do have to sing the actual song by Prince when you do this. Otherwise no balls.
Purple rain, purple rain.
That's about it. Here is my build. As you can see, I was too lazy to add more forma. But guess what? This build still works perfectly, which you can see in my solo survival Hydroid video. If you decide to add forma and another modification, you could go with title impunity, for example, for even more survivability and mainly team support. Or, if you prefer to be selfish, you could also slap on prime vigor or more ability strength. That is totally up to you. Refreshment will help you keep your shields up, and adaptation works on shields as well. So that is some nice synergy there. The main deal of this build is to tank and crowd control. Playing this is fairly engaging, even more so with title impunity installed. Which, to me, makes a very fun Hydroid playstyle. But hey, you do whatever the fuck you want to do. Now do not forget to like and subscribe to this shitty channel. And fuck off.